the sustainable city talks about what are those infrastructures that are needed, systems in energy, water, solid waste management, sewage treatment, food, parks, transportation. And of course, now we've learned we also need a system of public health. Cities require density, and you can't have social distance and density at the same time. And so we have to get much better globally at doing the things that we failed to do in COVID-19, which is to detect and track and isolate and eventually inoculate and cure the new viruses that are going to come. Because COVID-19 is not the first, it won't be the last. We're going to see more of this because global travel and global supply chains for all the attacks it's under are not going to ever go away. The world economy depends on those things.
The book, as Steve said, is being translated into Chinese by CITIC Press. So our hope is that it'll be published by CITIC before the year end.
Sustainability management really says that issues like energy, water, environmental impact, climate adaptation, these now have to become routine issues of organizational management. And then bringing this to a geographic scale, we start to think about cities as being sustainable. I want you to be thinking about here is that cities have been evolving really historically over the last couple of centuries. We're moving into the brain-based economy, and that requires a certain concentration. Now we learned because of COVID, you can now, because of the Zoom environment, you don't necessarily have to be concentrated. But I think we're going to discover people really like to be together. So at the beginning of the 21st century, for the first time in world history, a majority of the planet lived in cities. By the middle of this century, that will be 75%. Part of it is going to be economic, that it's just going to be, that's where the opportunities are. And ultimately, that's going to be what people prefer. But, you know, because of technology, particularly in some places, you can have exurban and suburban lifestyles where you're connected to urban life, but at a distance. But I do think that, you know, the rural lifestyle, living close to nature, is really impossible with 8 billion people on the planet because there's just too many of us and there's just not enough nature.
中国是每5年有个政府自上而下的5年的一个大的战略行动，这是一种中国编制发展计划的一种方法。这种方法呢，新加坡也在这么做，对吧？也在这么做。那么这是一个新鲜。另外一个新鲜呢，中国的自然资源部啊，它现在国土空间的时候，把经济社会环境这3大块是非常明显的对应起来的。它现在有3根红线，我们讲的资源环境最小影响，它就通过硬杠杆变成一个生态保护红线和永久农田红线 farmland 那个是 limit 是什么？然后呢，城市的增长边界，美国把它叫做 urban growth boundaries， 城市增长边界呢，这样3根红线是中国的自然资源部通过它的法定手续要求城市都要把这个3个红线，然后城市的扩张是在这个3个红线里面进行的。上海实际上对城市可持续发展非常感兴趣，那么每年在发布城市可持续发展手册，在编制城市可持续发展指数，发布一个全球的城市可持续发展奖。
在能做的新建筑里边，尽可能的去这个结合可再生能源，为可再生能源提供这个条件。那么在整个城市发展的这个范畴之内，也是强调了这个能源的这种分布式的管理以及能源的转型这个话题。然后另外呢，就是关于我们的新建、扩建和改造建筑，从这个国家型的强制性规范的要求来说的话，就要求我们所有的建筑都需要去做这个节能设计，要去做碳排放的计算，去满足这个我们3060的这个目标和计划，碳中和、碳达峰的计划。所以呢，其实在这个大背景之下其实建筑行业其实承担着非常重要的角色。 去考虑国家的这个整个战略发展的这个碳排放的问题。那么这个过程当中呢，关于我们城市的可持续这个问题里边呢，就会涉及到不仅仅是可再生能源的问题，因为我自己是一个建筑学背景的，所以呢，从建筑师来讲的话，其实建筑的设计，从建筑的空间原型设计到被动式设计到我们说这种主动式的利用，还跟建筑的结合这一块，其实都非常的重要。
Our understanding is that many cities and organizations in China, they're trying to develop guidelines, in order to achieve China's twin carbon targets by, carbon peaking by 2030 and then carbon neutrality by 2060. And I've heard a lot of conversations around the city's role in this. We, obviously talk about this quite a bit in the book. How the Chinese cities, includes not just the urban parts of it, but also 我们叫农村和原野。So in fact, if the Chinese cities were to achieve carbon peaking, then that means the entirety of China would have achieved its goal. I guess do you agree with that assumption, or what role do you think a city can play in helping the country achieve those twin targets?
On the state level, ecological red lines, low carbon development are the main policy. So the state defines ecological red line for strict protection, which means from the overall situation of the whole country, it is required that the urban construction area should not spread excessively and should develop orderly under the constraints, resources, and the environment. So this is the most crucial considering amount and impact. Secondly, on the middle level, local government and the academic circle have taken some actions on like Spawn City, greening index, resilient city infrastructure, things like that, and all kinds of technical research. Many still have a long way to go, but China is big enough and practice are very rich and things would happen eventually. And on the macro level, regeneration of certain areas, park rewilding and low carbon technology and LED, these technology studies and practice are very actively exploring. So the issue of sustainability has received a sustained attention in China.